Hi designers, we're going to get started on this typography assignment. We're going to make a flyer using all typography, and first we're going to go over some of the tools that InDesign offers. So I'm going to start with a new document, so we'll go File, New, and we'll choose Print and Letter. And the only thing I'm going to change is I'm going to add a 1/4 inch bleed. So I'm going to actually switch this to inches, and now I can change it to a 1/4 inch. And we can just click Create. Alrighty, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is typography and just some of the tools that InDesign offers. So first I'm going to size this up. I'm sure you're familiar with that pretty well. Let's just make it 60. Okay. Alright. So there's a few things that I just want us to cover. You probably are familiar with a lot of these, but let's just go over it for a second. So if we go into filters, we have a lot of different classifications and different properties, and these are really good to use as a reference or a guideline almost. So if we go over these, we can see that we have sans serif and serif fonts. So that is going to be these little kind of legs that pop off of the letter. And sans serif, sans is actually French for none, and that's just saying that there is no serif or without a serif. After that is going to be these thick bold lines. So you can see that these have these thinner structures in between, and these have more of an even structure all the way through. After that is going to be script. It's kind of like calligraphy. It's kind of like handwriting. Then we have a Gothic script, monospaced, handwritten, and decorative. And so monospace is quite interesting because everything that is created is going to be the same size as each other. Handwriting is going to be a lot more loose, a lot more graphic and scrambled looking, and then we have some more decorative ones, and they can be pretty all over the place too. Below that we have lightweight, regular weight, and heavyweight. And then the X height, we have the X and Y height, uppercase only, and then uppercase and lowercase letters. So you can see that sometimes we'll have fonts that are all caps, and you wouldn't be able to switch them. We have these widths of the letters, so we have condensed, regular, and extended. So some that are quite squished looking, some that are a little bit more natural and loose, and then some that are more far apart and more, the letter itself feels spacious. Then we have these low contrast and high contrast fonts. It looks like it's having a hard time finding some right now, but as we go through, you might see that some of these might have some lighter settings, whereas some of these might have a higher contrast. And that might be higher contrast with each other too, so you can see how that O is going from thick to thin and no thickness to quite a lot of thickness and thinness. And then lastly, this is just showing the drop letters or drop numbers, and it's calling them lining figures and old style figures, just where it's dropping things down and keeping things up, or if it's completely aligned with each other. All right. So then below that, I don't remember if we talked about this too much. Let me go ahead and grab this quote. There we go. Okay, So the first thing you might be seeing is some of this text is overlapping, and as you might have noticed, typography is this technique of arranging type to make it more legible, readable, and appealing. And so when it's overlapping like that, it might not feel very legible. So we can go ahead and change the leading here. And you can see that that is pushing things down further. And that's across each of these lines. So if we wanted to shrink this one back to its normal way, you can set it back to auto. But now we have this text that is pushed down a little bit. And we should be able to just grab from the first letter. So maybe we wanted to make it quite spacious. And if you hold shift, it'll actually go by the tens too. All right, so after that is going to be kerning. You might have heard of kerning. And what that basically is how close an individual letter is to another. So if I push the kerning out, that's going to give it quite a lot of space between the P. Even though I haven't pressed space, there's not a key press in between there. And we can also get it much closer to each other. And you can see what sometimes designers will do is try to keep these spaces very even apart from one another. And so you might see here has a bit of a larger space than between here. So you could go through and kind of kern all of these a little bit closer to each other so they feel a little bit more attached. We're thinking about the space in between the A. This gap here might not be able to be bridged really. So you see it's still quite readable, even though some things maybe could be a little bit closer to each other or farther from each other. It's still quite readable without things being evenly spaced from the original font. But you can see that there's a few spots where it feels uncomfortable still with these gaps here, or with how close certain things are between this A and P now. And so we might just want to set it all back to its original. So we can set it to metrics, and it's going to give it all a even space by the serif. And then if we set it to optical, it might try to kern it for us. And then lastly, what we have is the tracking. And what tracking is going to do is space each letter apart altogether. And so that's going to be based on a selection. So you can choose like this word arranging, and it's only spacing this. It's not spacing the whole row. It's not spacing the whole paragraph. It's only spacing what's selected. So even if I chose arrange, it's only spacing this portion. It's not choosing the ing because I haven't selected that. So we'll set it back to its original. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this back to normal. So the thing that we want to do today is we are going to be creating a flyer that is heavily text-based, and we want to wrap it around some type of image. And so you can see here that I had this typewriter pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and use that again, and if you have any questions about where you can get these images with this typewriter, I just found it on the website Pexels, which is linked in Moodle, and that has some license-free photos that are pretty high quality. And so I'm just going to shrink this bounding box around it, and I want to choose text wrap. And if you don't see this icon here, what you can do is go to Window up at the top and choose text wrap right here. Image. So we need to add some of that in. We open this up just a little. On the left side too. There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and add in some text around our margins. And we're just going to say fill with placeholder text for now. And you can see that with this text wrapped already selected, we can set it to wrap around object shape. And so that's with the image selected right here. And so when I click on my image, we want it to contour around the alpha channel because it's a PNG image, which means that there is no image data around our selection. It's already cut out for us. And so what that's saying is there's not like white paper around it. You might have a white image around it, and so you can select detect edges, and that can do a similar grouping as this. And then up here we have these offsets, and that's in every direction, and you can say set both right and left sides to wrap around the object. And as we scale this up, it's going to push the text around our image, even if we move text and even if we move the image. And that's true if we scale it up or shrink it down. And even if we added another text box, it's still going to wrap around our image. So something you might have seen me do just then that I'm not sure that we talked about last time is if you have a text box that has too much text in it and it can't fit all of the font or all of the text that you have written out, when you draw out another text box, you can go back to your selection tool and click on this red plus sign that pops up down here, signifying that there is more text in there that is not showing right now. And you can place it into this next column. So we can say fill with placeholder text, and maybe squish that down some more. And we can draw out another text box. We'll go back to our selection tool, select this red plus sign, and there we go. And then if we put our typewriter back in, it'll move everything around. So maybe we don't want a 1/4 inch around it, maybe we want it pretty close. You can still see that even if it is arranged to the background. So that's our typewriter. You can see that it's still wrapping around the image. It's not wrapping behind it. There we go. Okay. So let's delete this out really quick. And then what I did over here, set it back to W, is I typed out type over and over and over, and I kept pasting it into the next text box over and over. And I worked with the size and I worked with the fill color so that it would come up with these different directions and different sizes so that it would create more of a texture than a word. And that's going to be your assignment, is to come up with a word and make your entire flyer based around that single word. and you can use typography tools to make that into something interesting, something aesthetic. And I want to point out some design choices here. So going from this larger type to smaller and then across, it creates some variety, but still, since it's so repetitive and so tightly packed together, it doesn't have enough space to tell you that any of these are particularly able to stand out. Probably the most that you'll see is going to be this type right here in the middle, since it's the least black space in this section here. And then probably you might look down here too, because there's a black square rectangle behind one of our letterings and it's switched contrast on you. The other thing is I have my typography typed out here, and that's creating some variety as well. And so what happens is you're seeing the strong, bold typeface, this very sans serif, very stiff font style. And then you go from that to a very scripted, very alternative type of face. And then down here, we have even smaller, the art of lettering, and that is just to bring back the original typewriter lettering, and it is also creating some visual variety as well. You can see that everything is uppercase, everything is very dense up here. And then between these, it gives you kind of a moment, kind of a breath to let your eye find this instead. And also, you're probably jumping to this color. You don't see any color on the rest of the page. And so having this bit of orange here, this bit of color, is going to bring your eye in towards this area. And having this white space around it is going to give it a lot of that breathing room that's going to have your eye try to seek out that resting spot. Something that we could do over here, we could change the leading just so that it's even tighter. We'll have to move that black box up just a little bit. And we could even go tighter than that. Let's try. Maybe too much. I want it about there, where it's really, really stacked on top of each other. And I'm going to grab a few of these and paste it down. That may have been just a bit too many. There we go. I'm going to open up that text box just a bit, just so that if I press W, press W, that's going to let us see what's happening down here. And it looks like we could probably take one more of these, paste it down below. And I don't want my bounding box to be too big because I want this type to still fall over here. And I want this type up here at the top to match the rest of these. So I'm going to go back to type fill, and I'll choose text and set it to paper, and choose stroke, set it to registration. Oh. There we go. And so if I press W again, here's what we're seeing. I can choose this black box and maybe move it down a little bit. I kind of like how large it is, overlapping some of the text, because it's not really important that you read it since it's all over the page, right? So something here that's a little bit interesting, if we go back to our typewriter on this page, is, let's go ahead and say fill with placeholder text. And let's do another one. and we'll just say lorem ipsum. So I'm going to increase the size of that. And I'm going to choose the font that I want for this. So this is going to go on top of my typewriter. And at the moment, let me show you this really quick. At the moment, since it's text, and all text is wrapping around this image, it can't be placed on it. But if we select it, choose the text style that we want, let's set it to all script fonts. And maybe we like this Vivaldi one. And we might scale it up a little. That seems fine. And what I'm going to do is go to type right here and choose create outlines, and note that I have this selected. Okay, so I'm going to go to create outlines, and now it's not going to let me type anymore, and that's because it's created a shape out of the text that we had, and it's stuck in this bounding box. So I'm going to copy it, I'm going to delete this bounding box, and then I'm going to paste it over here. I'm holding shift as I drag this out so that it keeps the same scale, but now I can paste my text onto this image, because essentially it's an image as well. There we go. It's starting to look really nice, I think. I don't want too many breaks through here, so I want it to feel really dense, even though it's just filler text. And maybe I want to shrink my bounding box just a little bit. Oh, I needed to select my image. That was... There we go. There, now I can select my, or scale down my bounding box. I'm just gonna pop this out, and that's gonna let me see kind of behind it a little better. And you can see for some reason right here on the right side, it's pushing some of that text out just a little. So we can scale that up just a little bit more so that it's definitely avoiding that area. That seems nice, just giving it a bit of a break right here. And let's take this and try something else. So we'll choose typography again. And I'm going to make it probably 70. Let's make it a little bit smaller than that. Go 60. And I just want to play around with some of these. And so now that I have it all selected, I'm going to go to Type, Create Outlines. I'm going to select both of these, paste it. Oh, it's not going to let me, so I'll need to do one at a time. Copy and paste. We can delete this now. All right, just something simple. Let's make it an event. Let's just add a little bit of a graphic element to draw your eye down. Change the fill to registration, set the stroke to none, and that's looking pretty good. Alright, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to email me or reach out to someone on Discord. And this is going to be due next Sunday, April 14th. And yeah, good luck. I'm looking forward to it.